conference. And from the time on Monday when I gave one of the opening speeches until I was on stage again on Wednesday, my entire calendar had cleared for the rest of the month of March and the month of April. And I was starting to get inquiries that my May business could evaporate. And so I freaked out. I mean, I wasn't at the conference a lot. I was in my room crying for most of the 3 days. But the reality is I had to throw my business plan out. And I immediately started looking at what can I do? What am I capable of doing? And I didn't think there'd be a lot of virtual work. And I'll be honest, there's not a lot of virtual work. But before I got on this call with you, I was just on a call where I'm going to be the master of ceremonies for 3 days for a large association event later on this month. And we were doing our first technical rehearsal for this coming event. So I'm just having to be scrappy. And that's the number one thing it says on my business plan, my revised business plan for the rest of the year. And that is be scrappy every day. And that's just part of my plan. I have to look for ways to let people know who I am and what I do that I've never had to do in 11 years of doing this business. And I think that's good advice for all of you, is know what your plan can be. And then you got to go out and take the action. So the second bucket is passion. And I think here's where you have to remind yourself, why am I in this business? Tourism is getting hit really hard. The meetings business is getting hit really hard. Hotels are being, shut down. You have to remind yourself, why do I do this? And that's what I had to do, is I had to say, why did I become a speaker? Was it because I wanted to be on stage and be adored? I mean, I have an ego. That could be the reason. But the real reason is I have a real passion for being able to come into a meeting, and my sort of joke with the people who hire me is, if you hire me, I'll make your meeting suck less than other speakers might. And I'm really passionate about coming in and providing information and getting people to think. And when I get an email from somebody who says, I really enjoyed your presentation and here's what I put into practice, that makes my whole life like worth living. So having to remind myself of, why do I do what I do? And are there ways to do this in either a virtual or a recorded way? And I'm still trying to discover it because we're only 7 weeks into it, but I'm passionate about what I do. And so that keeps me going. And that's my advice for all of you, is remind yourself, why am I in the business that I'm in? And then find ways that you can try and be a thought leader to help lead everybody else through it. And then the last bucket, and what we're really going to talk about today, is people. I firmly believe that all opportunities in our lives come from people. So there's sort of an old cliche, and that is that people do business with people they know, like, and trust. I'm sure you've all heard that before. People do business with people they know, like, and trust. But here's the thing. The definition of the word know, K-N-O-W, it has changed drastically in the last 10 years. It used to be a process to get to know people. You'd have to be attending the same events. You'd have to play golf with them or have a couple of meals with them, different things like that. But we've gotten into this world where everybody's looking for shortcuts. We have this gadget crazy world where social media took over about 11 or 12 years ago. And so all of a sudden, a lot of people think they know each other when really they just superficially, they know of that person. People tell me all the time, oh, I know him. I listen to his podcast. Or I know her. I follow her on Facebook. We're Facebook friends. If you've never met somebody, I don't even know what a Facebook friend is. Is that really a friend just because you follow somebody? So I don't think a like, a link, a share, and a follow by itself is a business relationship. So I've been talking for years to everybody who will listen about how important it is to tighten those relationships. And as soon as we got put onto this lockdown situation, I realized that if they're going to ask us to social distance, we're going to have to go out of our way to find a way to socially tighten the relationships we already have, because it's going to be hard to make new relationships during quarantine. So focus on the people you already know, your network of business professionals, and those relationships should be able to guide you through this crisis and to launch you forward on the next thing. Because I think this physical distancing, at least partially, is going to be around for a while. If it's starting to lighten up, which it is for many of us, if we start getting recurrences, if we start having the virus coming back, they're going to lock us back down. There's a lot of talk from people who know a lot more than I do about the way viruses act, that for the summer in North America, we could see the numbers go down. But when we get back into cold and flu season in the fall, those numbers could spike again. So we might be asked to physically distance again. And yet here's the thing, being alone, it's not the natural state for people. Humans are herd animals. And when it comes to business, We run our businesses through these connections, these networks of people. So this is a very odd time that we're living in. It is, like we said in the introduction, there's a lot of uncertainty, but the reason there's uncertainty is nobody knows what's going on or where we are. And if you're involved in business development for your company, my assumption is you've seen a negative trend on sales. I have. My numbers are not anywhere near where they should have been, where my original business plan predicted them. And I know, talking to my friends in all different types of industries, that there are very few people who haven't seen some sort of a pullback. The amount of people who've been laid off is taking us into numbers in North America that rival the Great Depression. So we are starting to see signs of a recession that we may not be able to pop right back out of. But here's the thing. You've got to remember, if you're struggling to make your numbers, if you're worried about where the income is going to come from, the thing you have to realize is that you're not alone. And this is why I believe that right now, helping is the new selling. So what I did from day one of this crisis, I was kidding when I said I went to my hotel room and cried for 3 days. I stayed involved in the conference I was at, and I got on the phone with every client that I could find in my phone who I've done business with the last couple of years. And I said, what can I do to help? Now, people who had already booked me to be their speaker, a lot of them were doing one of two things. They were postponing their conference until the fall or until 2021. And I said, great, what can I do to help? Well, one of the things is we just rolled their deposit into next year. I didn't have any clients cancel on me. Everybody rolled me forward. Nobody asked for a deposit back. They all rolled it forward to the next event, whenever that would be. The second thing was, a lot of associations and companies needed then and now 8 weeks later still need content. So when someone like Connie says, will you come to this happy hour? We're putting these together to keep our group connected and engaged. Would you do that? My first question always is, do you guys have a budget? Well, most groups like yours don't. They're just looking for things to be engaging. So I go back to this rule. Helping is the new selling. And so I look for, what can I do to help? If this topic is something that's helpful, my answer is yes. Because I hope that over the long run, when the world gets back to normal, and it will get back to normal, that, if I'm there helping now, there's going to be business for me later. I think the number one thing for all of us every single day, if we're trying to salvage, whatever we can, is, have we provided value to somebody today? Every day, at the end of the day, when I sit down to dinner, I have 2 kids, but one of them is an adult who has graduated from college and lives on her own in Chicago with her fiance. And I have a high school senior. And I think, God, I feel for everybody. Obviously, the people who are sick or have lost loved ones, that's the worst part of this whole thing. But I think, boy, brides and high school seniors really got burned in this thing from, they didn't do anything. And so I sit down to dinner every night with my wife and my high school daughter. And before I go to dinner, every day I ask myself, have I provided some sort of value to somebody in my business life? And then I try to do the same thing for somebody in my personal life. So be asking yourself, am I providing value? Did I do that today? And then the other thing I think we all need to really look at doing is being more personal in the way we're connecting with people. There's a lot of broadcasting going on. Now, I don't know about you, but I have seen a trend over the last 7 weeks, that my email, I'm getting almost at least 50% more, if not 100% more emails every single day than I got in January and February. And most of those emails are newsletters, or they're invitations to something that I'm not really interested in attending, or they're group big blasts of some sort. So this is a picture of my inbox one day, I don't know, like a month ago. If you look, every single email had to do with coronavirus or COVID that came in. I deleted a few other things in here, but for the most part, every email that came in was somebody doing this. One of the emails was from the pet store in my neighborhood, and this was early. This email was like week 1 of this crisis. And basically the entire email told me that I should be monitoring the CDC website for more information, and that I should be washing my hands. Now, I'm not the smartest guy in the world, but I know I should probably have been monitoring the CDC and the World Health Organization and paying attention to what the experts were saying. And I heard it all over the media to wash my hands. I didn't need the pet store in my neighborhood to send me a newsletter that all it said was monitor this online and wash your hands. Because here's the other thing. I don't have a pet. My 18-year-old daughter had hamsters when she was 8. So somehow I ended up on this pet store's mailing list. They had never sent me anything I really remember, maybe once or twice a year. But now I'm getting emails from them all the time. And it's about COVID. It's not even COVID in caring for your hamsters. That would be personal. It's just blah, blah, blah. Too many people are broadcasting. And I think people out there are starting to have newsletter fatigue because I think we're just getting too much broadcast. So look for ways to be personal instead of broadcast. And that's when you're going to touch people in your heart. Are you taking the time to reach out to people in a way that they know that you stopped your busy routine, because we're all busy, and you said, I care what's going on with you? If the people feel that as an individual you did that, and you can't do that in a blast or a cut and paste, even if you're doing the ones where you merge in their names. I actually got a newsletter the other day that said, Dear insert name, and then it was the text. And then in the middle of the second paragraph, it said, as you know, insert name, and it went forward. So they were trying to be personal, but their mail merge didn't work. Well, even if it had worked, I know how mail merges work. When they first came out with that technology, like 15 years ago, I thought, wow, they've personalized this email for me because twice in the email, it says Thom and it's spelled correctly. They must know me. Well, all of us know how databases work. We know what a mail merge is. So that is not personal just because you've stuck someone's name in. And God forbid the mail merge doesn't work or it's one off. I worked for a company one time where somehow every name got off. So things to Thom said Todd and Tim got the next one down. Everything was one line off. So all of the emails were wrong. It isn't personal when you're doing it, even when it works right. So you want to make sure people know you care. So my advice to everyone who will listen, and you guys seem to be listening, is every day reach out to 3 people in your life, business and personal. And I would do those separately, 3 business people, 3 personal. But if you just want to do 3, that's fine too. Every day, reach out to 3 people and just say something personal to them so they know that it's directed to them. And today I sent it to my financial advisor, who's also my friend. And I said, Dear Ed, hope that you, Rachel, Miles, and and his daughter's name are all doing well. And I put that into the email, every one of their names. And then I said, I hope we can go back to that Mexican restaurant where we had dinner in February. And then I said, how are you? He immediately called me because it was a personal thing. He knew that that email wasn't sent to everybody because there's no way I ate with that Mexican restaurant with everybody in February. And not everybody has the same wife and kids' names that he does. He called me immediately. We had a great conversation. 3 people a day is what I recommend. Because here's the thing. Before this started, there has been an epidemic of loneliness in society. There have been studies, and they've been studying this in the Western societies since the 1950s, and the numbers keep going up. People feel more lonely now than ever before. And the latest survey that I showed that in the United States, 20% of people admitted to feeling lonely, this is pre-COVID, some of the time or all of the time. Now, we live in a world where we all have our phones. People shouldn't feel disconnected, right? We should have likes, links, shares, and follows. People feel more lonely. And one of the statistics I showed said that those numbers are higher, like 23, 24% in the UK and Canada, and that both the UK and Canada have appointed ministers of loneliness to study this problem in society. Now think about that for a minute. A minister of loneliness, and this is before we were all asked to go home and not see each other. So I think that this problem is being exacerbated right now. And there have been some studies done that said it is worse and it's really bad amongst the younger generation because the millennial generation that's out there in the workforce, they're used to being out every night with their friends, very social. Now they're home. Some of them are home with their parents and people don't know what to do and they're feeling disconnected. And another study that I just saw the other day said that being connected in a Zoom meeting is nice, but it's not the same as face-to-face. This is not equal in giving people what they need. Humans are We are social creatures. We need each other. And this isn't about introverts, extroverts. There are extroverts who are super lonely. Yeah, they're the life of the party and they like to be there, but they don't feel connected. So you need to take the time to let the people in your life know that you see them. I often use the hashtag see people because we go through our routines and we're looking at our phones and we're walking around and we're walking by other human beings. Well, now more than ever, people need to know that you care and that you see them. So I've got a couple of tips that I want to kind of run through, and then we'll go to some Q&A. And that is sort of my call to action of what you can and should be doing around this whole idea of social tightening while you're social distancing, because I think this is going to be here for a while. So number one, reach out to people. Here's the thing. Take it upon yourself to be the reach out machine. Now, when I first started writing about this and talking about this 7 weeks ago, I got an email from a friend and she thought I was being too aggressive, telling everybody to reach out to 3 people a day. She called me and said, I don't need that. I don't need you to put that on Facebook. I don't need to be told to reach out to people. I'm fine. And I said, great. I'm really happy that you're fine. Do you think that everyone you know and care about, every one of your clients, your coworkers, your family members, your friends, people in your faith community, your neighbors, do you think they're all fine in the face of this uncertainty? And she got off the phone with me. She didn't care. And then she texted me a few hours later and said, you're right. It's not about me. There probably are some people who nobody's reaching out to. So take it upon yourself to figure out, who do I care about, business and personal, who needs somebody to reach out to them. I mean, the person I was talking about earlier that I reached out to and he immediately called me and we talked for a half hour. He needed someone to talk to today. I'll tell you what, he's not the first person you'd be like, wow, he really needs a friend today, because he's super successful. He's got a great family, pretty popular guy. And yet he needed someone to reach out just after lunch today. And I'm glad it was me. But here's the thing, do that, make that part of what you do, because like I said, all opportunities in life come from people. I think the people who do the best job of letting people know they care, keeping in touch, not being salesy, just being part of the community, I think those are the people who are going to be rewarded when we get to the other side, because there's going to be, I think, at the end of this, there will be an uptick in jobs. Companies will rehire. And I think that the people who are the best connected are going to be, and the ones who reached out and kept relationships alive for 6 months or a year, I think those are going to be the people who find those opportunities. And number two, go back to what I said before, that you're providing value, and not just a newsletter saying wash your hands. I mean real value. Look for what do I do? What am I passionate about that can help somebody else in this world, and then offer to help. I've offered a lot of my clients and friends that I can do webinars. Some of them have a budget, some of them don't, but I've offered a lot of people that I can help. And I'll tell you, some of those people, most of those people don't respond to me. And that's fine. But I have had a lot of clients and a lot of other people who've reached out and said, yeah, we need this. I've had, some people, I don't work with a lot of speakers bureaus, but I've been booked by 2 speakers bureaus for some big events to be their MC, because I do some master of ceremonies work in the live world. And now we're all moving virtual. And it was because I reached out and said, what can I do to help? And they said, oh, we have some clients who need this. You actually have some experience doing online presentations and online MCing. And it's not like I have a lot of experience, but I had more than some people. And so all of a sudden, I got some paid work out of it just because I was there saying, let me provide value. Number 3, I want you to imagine for just a second. Imagine that this crisis happened in 1985. Now, most of you probably weren't even born in 1985, but think of the technology limitations that we had 35 years ago to communicate with other people. So as much as I believe in face-to-face, as much as I believe that LinkedIn and Facebook and Twitter and all of these social media tools aren't a replacement for face-to-face, they're not the answer for how we build real ongoing relationships. They are tools that we can use. So in the regular world, these weren't magic bullets that suddenly made people more popular. We look at the people who are the outliers, who became sort of online influencers, and we think somehow that Twitter is going to make us all rich. I don't know about you, but my career isn't better because I have a Twitter account. However, I can use that Twitter account as a communication tool. It's a broadcast, it's not personal, but I'm not saying no broadcast. I'm saying more personal, less broadcast. But use the tools. We have cell phones, we have text, we have email, we have videos, we have Zoom, we have FaceTime. There are so many ways that you can communicate with people that in 1985, if we were locked in our homes, people could be dead for weeks and nobody would know. We now have the ability to keep in touch with grandma. We now have the ability to keep in touch with our boss. We can have Zoom meetings for our whole team every morning. Use the tools. Make sure that you're the person who is taking advantage of the fact that this crisis happened in 2020 when these tools exist. Because while I don't think they replace human engagement, they're all we have right now for human engagement. And I would also suggest tip number 4, you just find a way to get creative, right? Doing things the way we did them 8 weeks ago isn't going to work in this market. I mentioned that I had just gotten off a call with an association who is taking a 4-day, all-day event, and they're paring it down to 3 days, about 4.5 hours long each day. And there's going to be some breaks in there. This isn't the way they've done conferences for the 100 years the association has existed. This is the way they're doing conference in the month of May. And it involved their whole team coming together and being creative. Excuse me. And really getting creative with what can they do and how can they do it. So that's something that I think all of you can do, is really put on your creativity hat and say, what can we do in our industry to get people, to at least know that I exist. So when the business comes back, they remember I'm here. I live in Austin, Texas, and there's a bar in Austin that obviously had to close. Excuse me, I didn't bring any water, so I'm going to die here before we're done. No, I'm fine. But there's a bar in Austin, and the bar had to close because all bars had to close. So what they started doing was on Facebook Live, every single night, they host a mixology class. And they post on Facebook what ingredients you're going to need. And then every night, the bartender comes on Facebook Live and teaches people how to make a Manhattan, how to make a great margarita, how to make a strawberry daiquiri, how to make a mojito. And so people who are, patrons of that bar are staying connected to the bar by when they do their shopping, they're buying the list of what they need, and then they're learning how to make that drink. And the bartender was interviewed on TV, and the thought was, look, I'm not making any money off of teaching mixology classes. But the bartender, she's becoming kind of famous to the people who follow this. And he said, eventually, when I get to open my bar, hopefully all of those people are going to want to come here to be social. That's a perfect example of creativity. Same thing is true in the world of speakers, right? We're trying to learn, how do we do not just a talking head over PowerPoint webinar like I'm doing right now, but how can we do different things? My friend Eliz Green and I created a thing called the Webinar Talk Show. And twice a week, she and I do this on our Facebook page that we created on the Webinar Talk Show. We interview really smart people about their area of expertise and how they're dealing with it during these rough times. Some of it's for the meetings business, some of it for other industries. But what we're doing is we're demonstrating to our clients that we can do conferences as a series of interviews. And we've been picked up by a couple of associations to do their webinars in a talk show format, like Live with Ryan and Kelly, or Kelly and Ryan in the morning, or the Today Show, or something along that manner, so that it's more of a conversation than just me talking for 45 minutes. Now, that doesn't mean there's not a time and a place for something like we're doing right now. But for some clients, having two hosts coming in and interviewing their experts, their CEO, maybe some other people, it's just a different way. And we had one client say, how did you come up with this idea? And Eliz said, we just decided we had to be creative. And this was something we didn't see other people doing. So that's my recommendation to all of you, is just get creative and look for ways. Try it. Are we going to get rich off the Webinar Talk Show? Maybe not. But we're out there trying something different and trying to make sure that we're doing it differently. One association that I'm involved with, the National Speakers Association, who I'm a member of, their conference is in August. And they don't know if their conference is going to happen in August. And I say less than a 50% shot if I was a betting person. So what they did is they're not going to make that decision till June because they don't have to, but they took all their breakout sessions, which there were going to be 22 different breakout sessions over 4 days, and they put them into what their conference is called Influence. They put it into what they called Virtual Influence. And Virtual Influence takes place every Monday and Thursday. People had to buy a ticket for it. So there is a conference purchase in order to do it. But all those breakout speakers were told, we need you to make it evergreen content and also COVID content, meaning for what our members are dealing with right now. And they're being interviewed every Monday and Thursday. And Eliz and I are hosting that as part of what we do as a way to show it off. So we suggested it to them. They liked it. They picked us up. And we're doing that. All just a piece of being being creative. But what's great for the National Speakers Association is they've taken their 4-day conference and they've now made it 3 months long. Will they do that every year? No, but there's a possibility that they could do it for a month before their conference every year running forward. Even when things are back to normal, they could have special webinars just for people who've bought a ticket to attend. The other thing I think is going to happen for people who work anything connected to meetings, I think hybrid meetings are going to become a reality. So we're going to have live people back in ballrooms and convention centers for sure, without question. As soon as we get on the other side of this crisis, live events will happen again. But I think there will be a broadcast element of those. And I think that will happen as like a separate conference. It'll have to be produced differently. This is no longer just going to be a live stream of what's happening on their main stage. And so because of that, associations today are trying to get creative and figuring out what can we do. So do that with your business. Just get creative. And then the last thing is be transparent. There's nobody right now wants to see people fake it till you make it. There's no going out there saying, oh, I'm so successful. I'm so great. I'm telling you these things I'm trying, but I'm being transparent, telling you that it's not the same business world as far as income that it was 2 months ago. It's okay to let people know that there's a little bit of a struggle adjusting to this. There's a lot of people out there talking about sort of the new normal. I don't think there is a new normal. I think it's too early to tell what that even means. I think the old normal is going to come back really strong. But this experience and how we're using digital and how we're doing things like this meeting we're doing right now, I think these things are going to be here to stay. They're not going to replace face-to-face. But having more Zoom meetings, people are getting really comfortable with it. But I think the real world's going to come back. I think live meetings as we knew it will be back, and I'll be on stage again someday. But that's what I want to do. But I'm transparent with people. I let them know that in the meantime, I'm trying new things. I'm trying to be out there doing this. And am I making, the money I want to be making? Nope. But I'm trying. And I tell people that. I think that to come out there and act like you're doing great when everybody else is struggling isn't what people need to hear. People want you to be human. They want you to be transparent. So ask other people for ideas. So 6 years ago, I started a podcast called Cool Things Entrepreneurs Do, because I wanted access to really smart people who were doing cool things in business because I wanted to be inspired. And I bring this up because I've learned something in 6 years and now something close to 600 interviews. And that is success leaves clues. So what I have taken on the last 7 weeks is every single day, Monday through Friday, I make a point to have a one-on-one conversation with someone I think is smart about business. Maybe it's another speaker, maybe it's a meeting planner, maybe it's somebody from an entirely different industry that has nothing to do with what I do, but they're a smart business person. And I try to schedule at least a half hour, have a little bit of pleasantry, and then I ask them the question, what do you think I should be doing? I tell them my situation. I'm very transparent, but every day I try to talk to someone who's smart because they may not have great ideas. And in fact, about half of them have ideas that I'm like, yeah, that's not going to work for me. But the other half have either interesting ideas that need some tweaking or really good ideas that I've put into practice. So here's the thing. You have to be asking other people because nobody in the world has gone through a pandemic like we're going through that has shut down society. This is the first time this has ever happened in the way it's happening, but we have access to everybody. So look for smart people, ask them what they're doing, and listen. Because that creativity part that I talked about earlier, it's hard. I'm not the most creative guy in the world. So I look to smart people. And so I learned that through interviewing, that if you ask enough questions of people, They can't help it. They give you an idea, a theory, a nugget, a concept. So go out and talk to people. Because here's the thing. We're going to get through this. There's no doubt that this virus will live itself out. Smarter people than me have said 18 to 24 months, and usually a specific virus kind of plays itself out. Also, they're working on vaccines. They're working on treatments. So hopefully there's some sort of a herd immunity that if enough of us have gotten exposed, it's going to stop spreading because we have antibodies. I don't know. But I do know that eventually this is going to be something we see in the past. We're going to get through this. And so we have to do it together, because the more connected we are to people, the better chances we're going to have on the other end. So at this point, I would love to go to questions from all of you. I'm going to stop sharing my screen. But I also have noticed in doing several of these webinars that a lot of people don't necessarily love to ask questions in the chat or live with their voice. But some people want to go ahead and email me afterwards. And so my email is real easy. It's just Thom, Thom, @thomsinger.com. And if anybody wants to send me an email, if you have a thought, idea, a question, whatever, please don't be shy. I will respond. Just let me know that you heard me on this interview somewhere in the subject or in the start of that. So I toss it back to y'all.
Thom, I just want to say thank you so much. And just as a great example of how you've connected, you and I never met in person, but we connected through the virtual chat. So be creative that way. And I just like, Thom forever. And then all of a sudden we just connected on LinkedIn. And from the LinkedIn, it took a couple months before we actually reconnected again. And it was you who actually sent me a quick message on LinkedIn that says, I don't know, we haven't met, but I have a sense that you might need my help. Is there anything I can do for you? And because of that note from your end, we started connected again, and we chatted, and boom, all of a sudden, like I have this connection with you. I call you my virtual mentor.
I didn't know that, but I'm proud to be your virtual mentor.
You are. So I really appreciate the time you've spent with me, anyways, with our one-on-one conversations, and as well as you reaching out virtually to provide guidance and that mentorship for me. So thank you.
Awesome. So what do you guys experience? What are you seeing? Is anybody feeling distanced, alone? Do you see that in your business with your coworkers? Or what are some of the good things that you see your company doing? One thing one of my clients did is they were having a daily meeting, and they were having this daily meeting, and the first 10 or 15 minutes, this was early in the crisis, everybody was complaining, trying to get their technology to work. It was kind of the sad train every day. And the CEO called me and he goes, Thom, you know about connecting with people. I got to get people off this sad train. And so he goes, I want to be human. I don't want to just jump into business. So what he did, the idea I gave him was every day someone is assigned, and they know in advance it's them, and they have 2 to 3 minutes for show and tell, like we would have had in kindergarten. And they have to show their coworkers, and there's 15 people on the call every day. They have to show their coworkers their favorite thing in their house. And so what he told me is some people showed their husband or their wife, some people showed their kids or their pet, other people had family heirlooms or paintings they've made or whatever. And then every day people tried to outdo it, and it became very funny. But within 5 minutes, they were done and they were able to move into their meeting, and everybody got off the sad train. So I love hearing stories like that because I love to share those with my clients.
Hey, Thom. It's
Yes.
Alice here.
Hi, Alice.
I work at Metropolis in Metchtown, the largest shopping center here in BC. So as you know, it's probably not the greatest time for retail. Thank you for offering your tidbits, because I feel like it's really, it was very positive. We've been sitting through a lot of webinars these days that aren't always the positive. Here in BC, just before your session today, the Premier has announced that our province will revamp or reopen a lot more things in the coming weeks. So it's on the up and up, hopefully. But the nice thing is also our company, like our internal teams, have started doing more funner things to try to get people. And one of the things that we did is an internal bingo each week. So
Nice.
we're playing virtual bingo with about 20, 30 coworkers. It gets competitive.
I think that's really good. And I think retail, I think people are hungry to go shopping. I know that most of my friends, those who haven't been laid off, who are still working, they feel they have extra money in their pocket because they haven't had to buy gas. we canceled my daughter's car insurance. She can't drive because where's she going? So we saved like $300 a month for a couple of months off of her car. And, she was like, so how can we spend that $600? I'm like, yeah, it doesn't really work that way, but thanks for trying. But I think there are some people out there who, when retail opens back up, I think the retail places that get both the stores and the shopping centers that get creative will be the ones who draw people in. So I think that will be on what can you do to safely get people to come and connect and have fun and have an experience. Because I think people are hungry for experiences. And so I think the places like where you work who can create something that will work within the realms of safety, but still be creative and different and fun, I think you're going to have the people come. And if they can actually go into stores and spend money, I think a lot of them will.
I think what will be interesting is we're used to, because being the largest shopping center here in our province, we're used to big events, like big open public events. So we're starting to look at hybrid models or outdoor type events that can attract people
Yep.
without having to draw that crowd, because our province is still not allowing anything over 50 people. So with the social distancing. So because of that, like you said, with the hybrid is an interesting thing that we're starting to think about and create, is how do we do that offline experience, but with maybe some online component, so the larger peop group of people can still participate, but then have a smaller group in mall or
Yep.
trickling in, so they're not all coming at the same time.
Yep. I think there's going to be a long time where we're going to have these restrictions. So my daughter's wedding would have about 100 people. And I'm like, what if she's getting married in California? I said, what if California says in October, yeah, you can have 50 people. We're going to have to call some of the guests and say, you're not actually invited anymore. And my daughter was like, oh, that'd be horrible. And I said, I think everybody would understand. I don't think if people called and said, hey, we have to limit it to 50, therefore it's immediate family, for the most part. I think people, like one of my friends was like, yeah, I'd understand those types of calls. So I think that, for a long time, we're going to be limited to 50 or 100 and things like that. But we're going to get to the point where all of a sudden it's going to blast open. And I think that if you're providing experiences and value, people will reward those people. I think that's where people will come shop when real shopping happens.
Yeah, my sister's wedding was supposed to be in September, and it was 150 people. So now they've, because the venue keeps asking her if she wants to move her date, so she's officially moved it to next year. But they're doing a 1-year celebration party instead.
Right.
They're still going to get married this year, but it'll just be the family,
Right.
and then on her wedding day, and then have the big party next year.
And again, my daughter and her fiance, so he doesn't like fancy restaurants and she does. And so he tries to limit the amount of like white tablecloth restaurants they go to. And she always looks for more occasions to do it. And I announced the other day, for the rest of your life, May 16th can be your almost versary. And you guys can go out to like a French restaurant or something. And he literally was like, thank you, future father-in-law. Thank you for that. Because she was like, I never thought of that. Like she was all excited. Another reason for the rest of their life to go celebrate is they'll have their almost versary.
Thom, I had a question.
Hi, Chris.
Hi, how's it going? I think I know everybody on the call here, but Chris Peters from Tours in Burnaby. So just speaking of connecting with people, I think we've had a lot of success with this particular call and getting people together on a regular basis. And I know that now I've got these regular scheduled Wednesday and Thursday calls that I'm normally on with other people from my industry and building these relationships that I didn't have with them before. And as someone who's got 2 young children at home, getting out at night was not an easy thing to do. So this has actually made me more connected in some ways. And we kind of look for the silver lining of this, of this time. But one of the things that we're going to be looking to do for Tours in Burnaby probably in the next few months is to have kind of a half-day conference, basically online for stakeholders and for community members and that kind of thing, just to kind of talk about what we're doing, crowdsource some ideas. What are some things that you've seen so far or heard about with some of these virtual conferences that kind of mix it up? Because I'm sitting on a kitchen chair right now, and I'm getting pretty fidgety after a day of sitting here. Like, what kind of other fun things have you seen with kind of crowds to keep everybody up, moving, engaged for these, some of these longer virtual seminars or Zoom calls or whatnot?
Sure. No, and I've been sitting on that. In fact, I don't have a really good ergonomic chair, but it doesn't matter because I don't sit here very often. And now I'm here 7 hours a day doing this type of stuff. So I'm like, ow, my butt. But so one of the things I think is really good, my wife runs an association. And last night they had their first virtual happy hour. They've done some other virtual things and they've utilized my podcast to interview some of their speakers. They didn't want to start their own podcast, but they usually have like CEOs come in and speak. So they partnered with me and I interviewed some of the CEOs who were supposed to be their monthly speakers. And that way they had information that they could send out in a way that was easy for people to download and digest in like a 30-minute interview. So they've been doing some things, but last night they hosted a big happy hour. And I don't know, I'm guessing on the numbers, but they had well over 50 people. And they used Zoom meetings like this and they used the breakout rooms. And so to break up, they did some formal stuff and things like that. Then they broke people up into groups of 6 and sent them out for 12 minutes with sort of a topic to discuss. And so people would go out and then they pulled everybody back and got people to share with the whole group a couple of the ideas. Then they randomly assigned them to breakout rooms again with another one. So that's a great tool if you want to do some brainstorming or some networking. Is the breakout rooms in Zoom meetings is a really unique way. A lot of the other platforms don't have it. And it's a really unique way. So my high school daughter got into her college of her dreams. She got her first choice and she got accepted while here on quarantine. And they started a Facebook page for the class of 24. And there was like 1,000 kids admitted to the class of 24. And the kids were all chatting on Facebook, but these 18-year-olds don't really use Facebook. So a lot of them pulled off into like Snapchat and other things. And so they sort of bifurcated. And then someone said, hey, let's do a big Zoom thing and we could break up into smaller groups. And then somebody said, well, the problem is you have to have Zoom Enterprise to be able to do that. And Kate told everybody, well, my dad has that. And so for the last 7 weeks, every other week, she's done it 3 times. They advertise it through the different channels that they have for their next year's freshman class. And they've had as many as like 100 and some kids come and as few as like 40 on the 3 times they've done it. And they all come and it's 100 people. That's too many for anyone to talk. So all she does, she has my computer with Zoom set up and then she has her computer. She joins in both and then she operates off mine, sending people out for like 8 minutes. And she said it's like ordering pizza in the dorm your first week of college because you don't know anybody, but you're all kind of got the same experience. And they'll talk for 7 or 8 minutes and then the counter starts. Boom, they all come back together and they go out again. And some of these kids will stay a couple hours. It dwindles after the first hour, but they like it. So I think that's a tool that works really, really well. Another thing that I've seen some people do is if they're having like you're talking about like a half day meeting or something that's long, is you got to schedule some breaks into that. And then into the breaks, they put together some interesting videos. They got everybody to take like a picture doing something at home. And then they just stitch the pictures together and they put the video on a loop. So it's everyone in the company. I'm doing this tomorrow for a 5-hour group and everyone in the company had to send a picture. And some people are eating cereal. Some people are making a sandwich, whatever was their representation of home. And then they stitch those pictures together and it's like 3 minutes long and they just are putting it on a loop 3 times because we're going to have a 10-minute bio break type thing. So it's kind of a fun, they set it to good music. They, did stuff. So there's a lot of things that you can do. And I'm happy to chat more ideas later.
Very cool. Thank you so much.
Yep.
We have about 5 minutes left. Are there any other questions that you want to ask Thom? Like he's brilliant in terms of ideas and being creative. Thom, do you want to share about your stand-up comedy?
Yeah.
How you did?
So she clearly stalks me. So 2 years ago, I was going to be the MC of a 3-day event in New York City. And this association decided they did not want to compete with nighttime in New York City with restaurants and shows and everything people could do. So the whole conference, it was 3 days long, but the conference ended at 4:30 every day. And there were no nighttime events. And so maybe there was a happy hour, but by 6, everybody was free to do what they wanted. So I called a friend of mine who's a professional speaker, but he's also a professional comic. And I said, hey, I'd love to go out with you one night while I'm here. And he said, come to open mic night with me. And I said, I would love to watch you work on new material. And he said, that's not what I'm inviting you to do. And I thought for a minute and I was like, oh, no. And he goes, did you ever want to? And I'm like, of course. When I was a kid, you go to a comedy club, you think, that'd be so fun to be the comic. And he goes, well, just do it. It's a 5-minute set. I'm like, there is no way at 52 years old, I am going to go and get on stage at a comedy club in New York City and do 5 minutes of stand-up. And at the time, part of my presentation that I did talked about trying new things. And he said to me, aren't you the guy who teaches try new things? And I was like, damn it. So I did this. And I'll be honest with you, Jerry Seinfeld was not worried about job security because I did a 5-minute stand-up set. But it challenged me out of my comfort zone. And when I got home, I told my wife I'm going to do 100 open mic nights. When I travel, I just Google like open mic night Vancouver. And I find it's either a coffee house or a bar or a comedy club that has an open mic night. And I go and I sign up, and often I get drawn. Sometimes you don't get on, but I've done 95 of them by the time the crisis hit and there's no open mic nights. I've done a couple online, but I don't like it. So I'm still trying to get to the 100 open mic nights. But what doing that did is it really changed me as a speaker and a facilitator and a master of ceremonies, because basically it taught me that it's okay to put myself out there, because I bomb a lot. I'm not that funny of a comic, but I keep going for it. I keep trying it and keep writing new things. And I think by doing that, it just opens you up to other stuff. So, I don't tell everybody that, but she made me share it.
You do tell people. You share it on LinkedIn that you do it. So
I do put it online when I do it. Yeah, that's true.
thank you for sharing, Thom. Really, really appreciate your time. And again, all of the great advice that you've shared is amazing. Definitely more ideas for me to take away personally. Just one last call to see if there's anyone that want to raise their hand for a question. No, we're good. Seth?
Oh, wait, there's one.
Seth. Oh, no, Beck. Unmute yourself.
Thank you very much. I'm not sure if you can hear me.
I can't hear him.
Turn up the volume. Come closer.
I can't hear you. He's muted.
The cell phone and the computer in the office. Can you hear me now?
Beck, are you still there?
Oh, we lost him. Oh, no, he's here.
Beck?
Can you hear me now?
Oh, now we can hear you.
There you go.
Yeah, sorry about that. I'm operating on the computer and cell phone because I don't have a camera on my office computer. So, yeah, thank you very much, Thom. We really appreciate it. Obviously, our community here is pretty tight, and having you on board today means a lot, right? Having someone who has been active in the community and adapting quickly to your new business model, like everybody else has to do, right? But I'd like to just point out a couple of. I came back to the office this week after working from home for over a month, right? Like a lot of people are still working from home. So it is challenging to relate to people when you are connecting in between your household responsibilities. But I am finding that more and more people, like you said, are eager to connect. I was actually shocked on the percentage of the responses that I was receiving. Obviously, we are definitely being more personalized in our communication these days and trying to call versus sending out the blast email. But the response time and response messaging has been all positive, which points out that people, like not everybody's social butterfly like salespeople here, but even those who are, more of a, I would say, personal or private, they are actually talking because they have been talking to nobody other than a husband or a wife, right? Or someone who's in the household. So it is a great opportunity, I think, like you pointed out all of the right things for all of us to just pick up the phone and make that important call and just ask about what they've been doing and what they've been up to. Not necessarily business. It's not time to sell, like you said, but it is time to connect and reestablish the relationships or potentially even, strengthen our partnerships.
Yeah, well, I think you're right. And you're seeing what I'm seeing from people. And I also think that when we can start going to live events again, whether they're social, like concerts or other types of events, or whether it's corporate or association meetings where we're there for like a business, education type setting and things like that. I actually believe that when we get back, this human to human connection piece is going to be more important than ever. I've already been in talks with a couple of associations who are looking at 2021, and the theme of their conference is going to be connections, right? It's like if you go back to the recession of a decade ago, that was a really popular topic because when people were laid off, the way they get jobs is through their network, right? That's the number one way people get new jobs is through connections. And so the theme, and there's a lot of words people use, but connections, I'm starting to see people planning their 2021 conferences around this whole idea of human connection and engagement. And I think that people's patience for live events that don't really help people have a human aspect, their patience is going to be real slow. This isn't just data dump time. This is human time.
Well said, Thom. Thank you so much. I think our time is up. We have a poll that just came out. Thank you, Seth. So we just want some quick feedback instead of waiting for an email. If you can quickly answer this poll for us, that would be greatly appreciated. And there's 2 of them. Seth, did you already do these both?
No, I've done. I'm doing this first one, and then I will. Okay, so it looks like we've got almost all responses. So I will end the polling on there. And second one is a bit more. Just give me 1 second here. There you go. This way that is run.
Getting some feedback on what you want to see in the future for our social hours.
Yeah. While that's happening, just wanted to introduce. So the next couple of weeks is going to be an interesting it's going to be an interesting shift for us. We're going to have a really interesting session next week on digital marketing, and we have Matt Capper, who is digital marketing expert, who's got experience working in a number of different industries. So he's going to be coming on and talking about how you can customize your digital marketing strategies and how you can, take advantage of kind of limited budgets. And so he'll be on the 13th, and on the 20th, we're actually, interesting as we're talking about the virtual networking sessions, we're going to be having a virtual networking / breakout room where we're going to have 5 to 6 different rooms, and we're going to have different organizations lead different rooms. So it's similar to what Thom was talking about, but I think we're going to try to make it as interactive as we can, and we're going to try to bring some very interesting people on for that. That would be the 20th. So stay with us on Zoom. We're trying our best to make sure we're keeping everyone engaged as much as possible. So that's fantastic. So
amazing. Thank you so much. And Elaine just said, thank you, Thom. Great ideas and great insight. And Richard says, thank you again. Tourism Burnaby, keep this going. We will do our best to keep this going and interesting for you. Thom, thank you. Thank you so much for your time today. And everyone, don't forget Thom's email. What is it again, Thom?
Just Thom at thomsinger.com, and Thom is spelled THOM.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful evening or afternoon, everyone. It's time to go for dinner for me. Have a great day, everyone. Bye now.
okay, thanks, Thom.
Thank you, Thom.